もう死んでいる。何？
Hey, John Rowe.
The topic of the
We should do a podcast. We should do a podcast.
お前はもう死んでいる。何？
Hey, John. Hey, John Rowe. We should do a podcast.
The topic of the podcast together, and honestly, I'm excited.
G'day, dorks, and welcome into Lords of Dorktown, a podcast all about anime, cartoons, and video games. I'm your host, Philip, and the dork joining me is a fellow father, a fellow podcaster, a fellow weeb, a fellow dork, a fellow nerd, whatever you want to call him. He is a great person, and I'm very excited to have him on the podcast. It's Robert from Dad Needs to Talk podcast. How are you, brother?
I'm doing good. Very, very glad to be here. This is very awesome. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, mate, I'm so glad to have you on. We were just talking before I hit record that I think we worked it out, the second dad I've ever had on the podcast. But I'd say the first dad that's as committed to like anime, manga, and all round dorkiness as myself. So it's so great to see a fellow dad out there in the environment.
Oh yeah. Definitely. We are. I don't know if I want to say we are a rare breed, but we when we find each other, we have to stick together.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think there is a few of us out there. I think there's a few more closeted weeb dads than that care to admit. But yeah, there's definitely a few out of us. But for listeners of Dorktown who might not be around your podcast, do you want to explain who you are, who your podcast is, and what the deal is, my friend?
Yeah. So like you said, my name's Robert. Dad Needs to Talk, and yeah, I pretty much do a mixture of talking about fatherhood, so all the crazy adventures I go on and stuff I do with my kids. And I am a father of 5, 3 boys and twin girls.
True, man.
So yeah, so lots of talk about them. Of course, lots of manga talk, lots of anime talk, and sometimes video games. Though in the last year, my gaming has slacked up a bit because I got so much deeper into reading manga last year that a lot of the time where I would normally be playing games, I'm like, well, I'm reading a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's me in a quick nutshell. Say I cover all that stuff both on the podcast as well as on my YouTube channel as well. So yeah.
Yeah, fantastic YouTube channel. I've really enjoyed watching and consuming your content. I think you have such an interesting taste when it comes to manga because I think you're very like scattershot. I'd almost describe you as. You seem to have a lot of fingers in a lot of pies when it comes to manga interest. Would you say that you're that there's a genre that you tend to go towards more often than not?
Probably for sure. I definitely I definitely enjoy my action series, but for me, the main crux for me is definitely story. So, even though there might be some genres I might, kind of dip into more than others, but for me, like, hey, if there's a good story there, then I'm willing to give it a shot. And that's kind of why, like you said, my content, at least like with some of the series I cover, whatever, is seemingly kind of scattershot because me having the podcast and a platform to talk about stuff, I'm like, you know what, this is the perfect opportunity and perfect excuse for me to pick up a bunch of random stuff because I'll be out in the store. I'm like, I might go in for a known quantity, like, oh, I need to pick up the next volume of Villain Saga. But while I'm there, of course, I'm going to be there for 30 minutes, maybe an hour or more, browsing around, combing the shelves. I go to the same sections a million times, and there's always something that, either catches my attention, whether it be, oh, that cover looks interesting, or the name seems kind of odd, just something to catch my eye. And that's kind of what leads to all the different stuff that I cover. Is just, this looks interesting. I want to talk about it.
Yeah, I think that's such a great way to go about it because a lot of people get kind of, and I think I would fall into this category myself, a lot of people can get like tunnel vision when it comes to like the anime or the type of shows they consume or whatever, and they fall into this pattern of like, oh no, I only like battle shonen, so I'm only going to watch or read battle shonen, and I'm never going to expand my horizon past that. And I reckon I was like that for a long time. And it wasn't until I started, Dorktown that I was like, oh, well, I've got to branch out a bit because I can't just talk about, Black Clover forever. I can't just only talk about how good Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is. I've got to branch out. And I started getting into, sports anime, and this year is the year I've decided to go in on a lot of romance anime. I'm gonna try my hand at some romance anime.
Nice.
But also just like just picking up stuff that I wouldn't have picked up previously. Like I think, especially when it comes to anime, there was a lot of stuff that initially I would never have gone in on, but now that I'm doing this podcast and that I have more of a reason to, as you said, like an excuse to consume more content, I've started watching a bit more obscure stuff, and I've really enjoyed it. There hasn't been a series I've picked up of late that I haven't enjoyed, so I'm on a bit of a hot streak now. But do you have any hot recommendations for a manga or an anime that you were kind of surprised that you enjoyed, or that wasn't on the surface something that you would have been drawn towards naturally?
Yeah, so I can give. I'm gonna try to keep the list short, but
You don't have to. It's okay.
I can name.
We're here all day, mate.
I can definitely name a handful off the top of my head because one thing. But before I dive into the list, one thing for sure, me doing the podcast and getting into this community and stuff, whatever, is that of course you're gonna encounter other nerds like you, other podcasters and stuff. And so, as we're all kind of getting into these circles with each other, listening to each other's content and videos and stuff, whatever, you're of course going to start picking up on more stuff that you might miss because there is so much stuff that constantly comes out that there is no way that one person or one show will ever catch everything. And so that's why it's kind of like, okay, you know what? I can kind of pick my couple that I know for sure I like, and then listening or watching other people post about, so like, oh, okay, me and this person kind of have similar taste. So, okay, I'm going to add that show to my list. And so a couple for me would be, for sure, I have to start with Ranking of Kings. That is the current one that I feel like I am shouting from the rooftops about right now, just because before that show came out, or started a few months ago, because it started in the fall and it's still ongoing, I paid it little to no attention because, of course, I feel like a lot of people, when they first see that cover, you see this kind of small child with a crown on his head, practically almost naked, just like in like just his underwear, sitting on a throne, and it's like, okay, what is this? But it has become quickly one of my favorite series. Just because of the whole. So Ranking of Kings, just to give like a super quick synopsis of that or whatever. It follows the main character, Prince Boji, who is deaf and mute. And so he is the oldest son. He has a younger brother, so he is, of course, the heir to the throne. Now his dad is a great king. So by the title, Ranking of Kings, all the kings in this world are literally ranked. His dad was ranked the 7th king out of who knows how many. And so he has a lot of expectations and stuff, whatever that comes with him. But because of his disability, people doubt him. People, look down on him like, he is not fit to be king. His brother should do it, all this stuff, whatever. But throughout the show, you learn and see like, no, there is more to this character than meets the eye. There is more to this world than meets the eye. And so Ranking of Kings is definitely a big one for me that I was pleasantly surprised about. Have you had a chance to check out that one?
I didn't make it through the first episode, partially because it was I watched it at the end of a long night of wine, And secondly, because I think the character design initially for me was quite off-putting. I didn't, I want to go back, especially after reading the Crunchyroll Awards like announcements and seeing Ranking of the King up there for a few awards. I was kind of like, okay, maybe I didn't give it enough time of day. Maybe I need to go into it a little bit more sober and a little bit more open-minded. So it's definitely still on the list. I haven't taken it off the list.
Yeah.
But yeah, now hearing you talk about it, I think I'll bump it up a little bit up the list. And I have, I've seen a few like clips of it online. There's a clip where he's surrounded by like snakes or something like that, which looked pretty fun and interesting. And maybe the charm of the character design will wear off on me in the end. But yeah, I do want to go back in on it.
Yeah, but yeah, that's one. Another one was also Odd Taxi, just because.
That was all over the Crunchyroll Awards, Odd Taxi, and haven't seen it.
Yeah, so that one, admittedly, that is another kind of judging a book by its cover for me, and for a lot of people, just like, okay, you kind of see this walrus-looking character standing next to a taxi, and it's like, okay, what the hell is this? And so, but basically, that one is actually kind of more of like a, what would I classify it as? Kind of like a, I don't know if I would say like full-on thriller, but for sure a mystery type of series, because it kind of basically revolves around the disappearance of a person. Basically, somebody is suspected of being murdered. And so a lot of characters throughout the story that are involved in this case from various perspectives, whether it's like, oh, they saw somebody or know something or whatever, with the main character being a taxi driver or whatever, of course, he's getting people coming and going through his cab all day, every day. And so he's overhearing different stories, different pieces of information or whatever. And one of the key things is like the person that's suspected of missing or whatever, one of the last known things about her was that one of the last places she was seen was riding in his taxi. So he kind of gets roped into this series of events, and that's kind of, I'll kind of leave it kind of vague there, but there's definitely a lot more to it than meets the eye, even though, like I said, it is like on the surface level, it's like, yeah, it's this world with all these characters and stuff that are pretty much animals or whatever, or look like animals. And so, but there is a couple more layers to it than that. So, but yeah, Odd Taxi is definitely another one recently that, like I said, that surprised me. What was it? This one is new, and it just started recently, whatever. So I'm still kind of 2 episodes in. It has me so far, but I don't know if I want to be 100% champion of it. But I'll still toss it out there. It's called. Hopefully, I'm probably butchered the first part of the name, but it's called Sabuki Bisco.
Oh, this is Rusty to Bisco. Yes. I've been so hyped for this, and I know there's 2 episodes out, and I'm kicking myself because I haven't had the chance to watch those, because I was deep into the Demon Slayer Entertainment arc, and I couldn't pull myself out of it for even one episode to give to Rust Eater. But yeah, no, I saw the trailer come out. Oh, the trailer came out like a year ago almost, and I was enthralled by the trailer. The trailer is fantastic. There's so much nonsense and craziness happening in that trailer that I immediately put it down on my list. And yeah, I've heard good things of the first episode, and yeah, I actually think I'm going in on that tonight. So yeah, I've been super hyped for that. I love the studio that's doing it. I loved the trailer, and to see that it's getting good reception already is quite promising. I'm excited.
Yeah, so that one for me, like I didn't even see a trailer for it until after I watched the first episode, because once again, that was one I don't even remember when I was kind of going through the list of stuff that was going to be coming out for this season. I don't even remember looking at it. Maybe I probably glanced over it,
Mm.
but it was nowhere, nowhere within my peripheries, radar, nothing. And so it was just like, okay, I'm hearing people talking about it, and then what was it? I also saw that the light novel for it also got released this month as well. So I was like, okay, the timing of the anime starting, and then they're bringing the light novel, at least over here in English in the US. And so I'm like, okay, let me check this out. And yeah, that first episode, I was like, okay, this definitely piqued my interest. And then that second episode, I was like, okay, I am in for whatever all this wild stuff that is going on with these giant mushrooms and whales flying through the air in the intro, and it's just so much stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go for the ride. And the biggest thing that like really got me was people on my show know how much I love Trigon and Vash Stampede.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I getting slight I don't know 100% what, but something about it was giving me a little bit of Trigon vibes. Maybe it's a mix of this kind of like desolate world, whereas okay, hey, like a big chunk of areas outside of or between like the towns and stuff, whatever, kind of like no man's land, so to speak. And so I think a mix between that as well as the title of the first episode was like the man worth 800,000, which of course
Yeah.
Trigon, the man worth 60 billion double dollars. Those couple things, I'm like, okay, I love Trigon. This is giving me some vibes. I need to check it out. And yeah, those first two episodes, I really like.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, yeah, we haven't really had like a Trigun, like a modern day Trigun kind of attempted. Nothing's really tried to go the way Trigun did. It'd be interesting to see if that's what they're going for. I mean, it's easy to miss Rust Eater in this like winter 2022 lineup because it's such a stacked season. Like
Yeah.
I'm feeling a little bit anxious just looking at this list. I'm not gonna lie. Like we've got Attack on Titan, the final season, part 2. We're still continuing with Demon Slayer. I think Spy X Family is coming out this season as well, or maybe
That's next season,
next season.
spring.
Tribe 9 is this season. There's so
A lot.
much, and like yeah, Platinum End's still continuing. 8686 is still continuing. Shaman King's still going. There's so much happening this season. It's anxiety inducing.
Yeah. Hey, 86 was another one for me last year that like I knew nothing. Once again, knew nothing about that series going into it, and just some buddies of mine on another podcast I listened to, Mike Check Waifu podcast. They that was their favorite anime from last year, and so but every week they were talking about it. I'm like, okay, I'm tired of skipping over because they they do like a spoiler section at the end of the show, and so I'm like, man, it sucks. I'm having to skip over this part of the show every time. Let me at least check it out and see what it's about. And I was like, oh, this is really nice. Just the whole world, the setting, the story, the music.
It's such
I really, yeah.
It's such a tight plot concept too. Like it's the initial concept of it all is so. I don't know. It's just it sends chills up your spine when you think about it for too long, and I think that's the best part of it. It's just that separation of humanity, and yeah, it's such a good concept. I'm glad that it's getting a bit of love because it was. I mean, it feels like I've said this sentence about the last 3 kind of seasons of anime, but it feels like there's so much coming out and there's so much good stuff coming out that I feel like we might be losing a few gems in the way. Like a few things might be not getting the attention they deserve because there's so many other bangers going on that maybe in 3 years or something, and we all of us collectively start to get to the ends of our watch list and we get to the ones that we missed out. We might regret not giving them the love that they initially should have had.
Yes, for
But
sure.
I think that's just me with a bit of fear of missing out, to be honest. I suffer from a crippling case of FOMO sometimes. It's not good. It's not good at all.
Oh yeah.
I know you've answered this question on your podcast, but I'd
hmm
like for you to answer it again. So, what is your all-time top three?
Uh, hmm. I'm gonna say, well, the top two are for sure easy. I think the third one, I'm gonna slide a new one in. So for me, number one is Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Mm,
Um, All-time favorite series. I freaking have the Ouroboros symbol tattooed on my shoulder.
nice.
Love Full Metal. Number two is Trigun. Um, People that follow me online, like my love for Trigun is all over the place. Heck, behind me, I have some freaking Trigun art on my wall behind me. And I even took my love for Trigun probably to the highest height somebody could. My youngest son is named Vash. So,
It's amazing that you got that one past the wife. Like it truly is. How
well,
how on board was
I
it? Was
look
she?
I lucked out because my wife is also a nerd.
Yeah.
So, when I kind of brought up the idea, it wasn't. I really didn't get no pushback on it. It was just for me. It was like, hey, you can have the middle name or whatever, but if especially like before we found out it was going to be a boy, it was like, okay, hey, if this is a boy, you can have the middle name. I don't care. I just want the first name to be Vash, and I got that.
It's so great.
So,
I think I could have probably got an Erin or a Zeke past my wife. I
mm,
reckon she could have gone for those ones, as she's a massive Attack on Titan fan.
mm.
Yeah, but I don't like. I mean, if I could have had my like wildest dreams, I'd be running around with a little Naruto. You know what I mean? I be living that life. You know?
Yeah, man. Like without going on too far of a tangent on that, but like I know somebody somewhere is probably tired of me talking about it, but it's like hey, every chance I get, yes, my son's name is Vash.
It's so good.
Especially on podcast or on somebody else's show or whatever. I bring it up all the time, and I love the few times I've had him with me whenever I've been like at the store, specifically manga shopping.
Mm,
Because one time, he was with me, whatever. I'm browsing the shelves and stuff, whatever. And I had to call him. I'm like, hey, Vash, come here, come back. Slow down, whatever he was doing. And somebody literally was like, sorry to bother you, but did you say Vash? I'm like, yeah, like Vash the Stampede. I was like, yeah, dope. And
that's all the
so,
recognition you need. Like that's it. That's
yes, yes. And for me, with that name, it's in a way to where it's like if you know, you know,
mm,
but if you don't know, most people are just like, oh, that's a unique name.
yeah.
It's not like, it's not like I named my son Orochimaru. Like,
I was gonna say
what is
like
that name?
Goku running around with the little Goku. I reckon
Yeah,
that would probably be one of the most recognizable ones. Orochimaru is a
exactly.
fantastic name for a child. That is so good. If I have another one, I'm going to push for Orochimaru. That's great. I love that. Now, we mentioned it at the start, at the top of the show briefly, and we've kind of spoken a little bit on it, but I do want to get into the parenting and the fatherhood, whereas we are both anime manga enthusiasts that are both parents. You have a
Yeah.
substantially more harder time with 5 of them. I'm in the little leagues over here with 2, but that's plenty for me. So how have you gone being a parent and someone who's really obsessed with anime? How do you navigate the murky waters of what content is suitable for kids, and how much do you let them watch, or how much do you talk about it? And yeah, how do you navigate this? Because your kids are a little bit older than, or I think much older than mine. My oldest is
Yeah.
7.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Real quick, just because I have a feeling somebody somewhere might ask this, whatever, just to toss this out there, whatever, and we can circle back to it later. My third one is Vinland Saga,
Okay, yep, yeah,
and,
good,
and
good. I'm glad you mentioned that. We
yeah,
will.
no worries, but yeah, well, I'm pretty sure we'll circle back to that later.
Oh, we're
But
circling back to
yeah,
Vinland Saga. Don't you fucking worry. I'm talking about Vinland Saga. That's happening.
so yeah, so for I guess first off, a little bit more background, but with me and the family dynamic and stuff is that I guess what is the term some people use now? I guess blended family, because when I met my wife, she already had the older four kids,
Yeah, okay.
and so yeah, so I kind of I always laugh because thinking back to like when I was young, I was like, oh yeah, someday I want to have a decent sized family, and it's like okay, I kind of went from 0 to 4 and now 5,
Yeah,
and so yeah, that within itself has been kind of a journey. Because granted, at this point, like I've been with them over half of their life at this point. Because when I met them, let me see, when I met my wife, they were 5, 4, and 1.
yeah, wow.
Yeah, 5, 4, and 1, and now they are. And just as a reminder for those that are wondering, like, why am I only saying three numbers for 4 kids, twin
Twins,
girls? So
twins.
just tossing that back up
There
to
was a
keep everybody's
second.
mind
There
on.
was a second for me where I was like, wait, he said three, and then I was like, oh no, twins, twins, twins. We got it, we got it.
Yeah. Yeah. So 5, 4, and 1, and now they are 13, 12, 9, and then Vash, the youngest, he's 4.
Oh my
So
god, that is
now I'm dealing with teens slash preteens.
that sounds exhausting. That sounds exhausting. So yeah, coming into
Yes.
preteens too for your eldest, that's interesting because like I don't know if this is just because of the my algorithms on all my social medias and my YouTube and stuff like that, but it feels like there is much more of a younger audience for anime, and it's definitely more prevalent in teenagers and early teens than it was when I was growing up, at least. I don't know if that's the same
Mhm.
case that you're finding, but are you kind of are your teenage or your preteens and early teenagers, are they already being exposed to anime outside of their household as well? Like, is it already in their schoolyards and within their friendships and that stuff?
Oh yeah. So for the most part, well, my 9-year old, like I don't know where he is at with this at the moment, but like a couple years ago, he randomly started watching Naruto for some reason. I didn't push it on him or whatever. It was just one day I'm chilling in my room, and of course I'm hearing I'm hearing the voices, and I'm like, is that Naruto? And so I go like peek in his room, and I'm looking at his TV, and he's watching Naruto. I'm like, you watching Naruto? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, but yeah, so they are definitely catching it around because my oldest, one of his best friends is also a big Naruto fan, and so I'll never forget a few years ago when he first started coming over to the house. I'll never forget one day I answered her, and he had on a freaking Naruto headband. And
Mm.
so I'm up here looking at this like, because I said he's 13 now, so they would have been like maybe 10 or so. I'm looking at this young kid, and I want to be like, what do you know about Naruto? What do you? But so yeah, so my oldest gets it from no, or at least he's around it from his friend. My daughters, they have been very interesting because they don't really watch it, but they're aware of stuff. Not only not just obviously from me around at the house, whatever, but like they'll because both of my daughters, they are really big into art and drawing. And so there's been times where they've brought me pictures of one of them drew Naruto one time, one of them drew Pikachu. I'm trying to think, did somebody draw Todoroki one time?
That would be incredible. Uh,
I, I'm out to check, but yeah, they definitely are exposed to it a lot. Because honestly, one of the biggest surprises for me, well, kind of a surprise, kind of not. So one of my nieces, so my sister's youngest daughter, she just turned 14 last week, and she's into reading manga.
Wow.
And so, yeah, that totally surprised me because I'm trying to think because they've always been nerds because me being their uncle and for a portion of their lives they either saw me every day or I was living with them during certain periods of their life, whatever. So of course, like we all gamed and stuff a lot from them being born to even now we still play games together. But we never really watched anime and stuff together. And so one day when me and her were talking, and then she mentioned The Promised Neverland about she had watched it and stuff, and then she wanted to read it and stuff. And I'm like, you want to do what? My heart as an uncle, I was so happy and stuff. And I've had my other nieces and nephews that are a little bit older, they be watching this stuff too. So yeah, it is definitely very awesome to see, just it, continuing into the next generations and stuff. Because one thing I kind of admire as well, because of course doing the podcast and stuff, we're always meeting all different types of people, all age ranges and gender and everything else, whatever. I have met two for sure, specifically maybe three people that do anime podcasts, anime and manga podcasts, and they're in high school.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Jesus.
yeah,
That's some motivation right there. There was nothing I wanted to do in high school outside of school other than watch anime and smoke weed. There was no
yeah,
way I was fucking recording,
yeah,
editing, and
man.
uploading a podcast. That's
Like,
committed.
like one of them, Anime Gencho. He was the first one I came across back last summer when I first started kind of getting into the podcast stuff, whatever. Because I never forget, I was watching one of his videos or whatever, and he did a video where he was kind of he was talking with his mom about anime and stuff, whatever. And because I'm like, okay, of course, being a parent, I'm like, oh, cool, let me see what this is about or whatever. And so I remember he was asking her like what she was watching when she was growing up, whatever. And she starts talking about stuff that, you know, around my age range or whatever, like, oh yeah, Sailor Moon and and I'm like, the mom doesn't look that. Oh, she honestly is like she's about my age. You might know, like she ended up being a few years older than me. She's like late 30s, but like I'm doing the math. you know, I'm like, okay, this guy has a podcast, but his mom isn't even 40 yet. And so I ended up just messaging him. I'm like, I don't know, clarify, like, how old are you? And he's a senior in high school. And so I'm like, wow, that is really crazy. And then a young lady nerding out with Chelsea. She's 16.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean, yeah, like from my point of view, like my kids have never had a chance of not being into anime and stuff like that. Like my eldest has been obsessed with Pokemon since he could talk. He collects the cards, collects the plushies, plays the games, watches the shows, watches the web series. Everything. Pokemon has destroyed our household, and since around November, I want to say, he's been watching Naruto for the first time, and he's about 130, 140 episodes in to the original Naruto, and he's loving that. Like he's never run properly. Like he can run, but he's always ninja run everywhere. Like since forever, he just always ninja runs. His arms just naturally drift towards the back of him, and he just heads down ninja run, which is. It's cute, but if it keeps going for a few more years, it's going to be like, okay, come on, we need to wrap this up. We can't learn this habit. but yeah, like so he's been obsessed with it, and my youngest is too young to have screen time, so I'm sure
Mhm.
he'll fall into it. But yeah, like I think it was this year we in Australia we have this thing called Book Week, which is basically just like a day in school where everyone comes dressed as a favorite character from a book they've read. And back in
Oh, nice.
yeah, it's a really fun event, and every school does it. It's a big thing. It's you know it was our version of Halloween, but now we do Halloween as well. But anyway,
Mhm.
and when I was in school, I just remember there was just you'd see a few princesses, a few superheroes. Maybe if there was a big blockbuster movie that year. I remember one year, the year after The Incredibles came out, there was like 7 Dashes, like 7 people dressed as Dash.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was never any like anime or anything like that. And I was aware of it at a young age because I started
Mhm.
watching Naruto when I was in early. Oh god, it would have been. I was very early. I started watching very early, and
Mhm.
so I was aware of it. And then this year, yeah, no, last year, the year before, 2020, the year 2020.
Mhm.
I was taking my son to school for book day, and he was dressed as someone. I think he was a lion or something like that. And I walk in and I see about 4 different people dressed as Demon Slayers from Demon Slayer. I see a little ninja running around. I saw someone who I'm assuming was from Bleach or some description because he had just a giant styrofoam sword just dragging behind him. It was either that or Pyramid Head, and I'm hoping for that
Yeah.
child's sake that it wasn't Pyramid Head. You know what I mean? So yeah, like it's definitely coming into a way more mainstream culture, at least here in Australia, and it sounds like it's doing the same in the States. It's
Yes.
going to be interesting with this generation of people that are way more a generation of kids that are way more aware of anime. Whether we'll start to see more anime appearing on not where anime has appeared before. Like is like my wife recently started working as a librarian. She's doing that, and the amount of
Mhm.
manga and comic books that are now available at just our little local library is astounding to me. Like it's so crazy that libraries now stock manga, and if you are a kid, especially if you're a kid that grew up like me, who's pretty poor, you can't go out and collect manga series. You can't, be spending $15 on a volume of manga every week. But we went to the
Yeah.
library all the time. And we borrowed books constantly. So if you're a kid now and you have access to borrowing manga books and all the streaming sites where some of them are free now, which is insane. So it's so readily available and it's everywhere. I just wonder what this generation is gonna do for the medium of animation. Are we gonna see some cool? I think we'll see some cool new things. I really hope we will, but it's gonna be
Oh yeah.
interesting. I think eventually me and you and the rest of our generation will have to hang our hats up and let these guys take care of everything, and they can decide what they want and what's trendy and what kind of stories they want to see. And yeah, it's a brave new world out there, man. It's a brave new world.
Yeah. Yeah, and touching on the library thing real quick because going back to the host I mentioned a while ago, Chelsea, because like I said, with her being still in high school, whatever, that is how she like a lot of the manga stuff that she is reading and covering on her podcast or whatever. She'd be like, yeah, hey, my library got this in. I checked this out or whatever, and I already put in a request for them to order the next volume. And that is something else that has been like super awesome to see. Is not only are libraries having manga, but they are getting more and more open to you just putting in the request. But hey, can you order the next 5 volumes of
Mm,
whatever? And so I've kind of gotten to kind of get like another deeper look into that because two of my closest friends from over the years both work within different school districts here in Texas, and they both were all in the IT field, and so they both have been able to build and establish a manga collection at their school's libraries over the years. And so, because I remember like some years back, you know, them kind of texting me or whatever, just kind of reaching like, hey Rob, you know what, they finally got like a couple series or whatever kind of in the door, and basically it was like, okay, like the window of opportunity was, I'm like, hey, all right, they let me order like these couple. What are some other ones that you think we could kind of, you know, try to slide in the door next? And like, I remember like seeing like the initial pictures of stuff that they got at first, and then just like over the months and years getting more pictures of like their manga section at the school library. And like you said, it's just like so insane that if I was in freaking like middle school or high school and just like, oh, I want to read the new volume of One Piece, just go down to my library, just check it out, and
yeah,
no money out of my pocket.
It's yeah, like it's so good. Just thinking of being in high school again and being able to just go, yeah, and borrow manga books and comic books and stuff like that, because I wasn't a voracious reader when I was younger. I was much more of a visual a visual guy. I really liked just watching anime and watching TV and stuff like that, and listening to music. I wasn't so much into just reading novels. I picked up a few novels here and there, and I read them, and I enjoyed them. But I never was a voracious reader that I think my parents wanted me to be, because they're both fucking bookworms to the highest degree, where they just always have a book in their hands. But yeah, if I had access to manga or comic books, I would have been fucking chomping at the bit to get some. I think it's so good. I'm just trying to think of what series I would be comfortable with my teenage high schooler son bringing home as a manga, and there's definitely somewhere I'm like, yeah, maybe that shouldn't be stocked in libraries, but I'm sure there's a good middle ground. I'm sure there is. I mean, Demon Slayer is good enough. Kids could read Demon Slayer. That's pretty fine, I think.
It's funny because you mentioned kids and Demon Slayer. That I always like, just no matter how many hundreds of times, dozens of times I hear it. Every time I'm in a bookstore and I'm browsing around and I see little Tommy walking by with mom, and he's like, "Oh, look, mom, there's Demon Slayer." And I'm like, in my head, I'm always like, how old are you?
Yeah, it's definitely, it's the big one that I think, because it was on Netflix too. I think a lot of people, it was just so widely available. Well, it was on Netflix here in Australia, so I think that's why it got so in the zeitgeist of children, I suppose. Moving away from Dad Chat, I do want to circle back to Vinland Saga, because that's a series I actually haven't spoken about on this podcast for a few reasons. One, I haven't finished it. Two, I want to watch it again. And three, I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. I really liked Vinland Saga. I really did. And what I've seen of it and what I've read of it, I've really enjoyed. But I don't know if that's just because I really enjoy Vikings, or if it's because it is a very good story. Because I think it's definitely, there's no twists, you know what I mean? Nothing really surprising happens in Vinland Saga, or at least not to where I've seen. Maybe there's some big twists and some big plot points that are coming up that are awaiting me, and if that's the case, yippee. But yeah, I don't know. Why is it number 3 for you?
For me, and this is, and I guess just kind of for context, as far as like where I am up to book 8 of the volumes. Book 8 of the current 12 that are out. So I have all of them. I just haven't gone past it. But anywho, for me, at least up to this point or whatever, it has really just been just the core story of just Thorfinn's journey as a character, just because of the fact of, I don't know, I guess just because seeing, everything he went through, I guess basically like his teen years or whatever, from being a small child to early adulthood, and then kind of some stuff that I've read, past where the anime ended or whatever, and just kind of seeing him kind of finding solace, trying to find redemption, trying to find a way forward in his life, and just how his character is just transformed and grown over that time. And just like some of the other characters surrounding him that he has met along the way, those are kind of like the main things, at least like right now, why it kind of put the series up, that far. Now will it stay up that high or whatever as I continue reading? Who knows? But that's just kind of where I currently would kind of slot it in at on my personal list. But yeah, that's kind of it in a rough nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I'm in the same boat where it probably is something that I really need to finish, or at least to go back in on before I can rank it, I suppose, in how much I enjoyed it. But I was initially just so captivated by the aesthetic of it. Like as I said, I really do like Viking. I think that the aesthetics of Viking is very strong, and I love all that stuff. And it being set so long ago in real world history, and the little nods we get to other islands and other land and other cultures and stuff like that are always so interesting. And like Iceland itself is such a beautiful place, like, to animate. So it's so pretty to see Iceland and everything else. And it's got that brutal kind of goriness that I've really been into lately. So yeah, I want to give it more time, and I think I'm going to go back and give it. Have you watched the anime as well, or have you only just read the?
Yeah.
I don't remember there being an English dub. I don't think there's an English dub.
There is now.
There is now. Okay.
They just came out with it. I want to say within like the last. It might have even been last year.
Yeah.
When it came out.
Yeah, because I watched the sub and I was a little bit disappointed with the sub. I felt like it was this weird thing where they're Norse speaking Japanese, and everything looks very Norse. Like everything looks very Viking-y, and all the characters are very Viking-y, and then the Japanese voice actor, and it's the first time that's ever stood out to me as strange, if you know what I mean. So I think maybe if I go back and check, I don't know why, if English would make it better, but maybe it would for me. I do love dubs. I'm a big dub boy. Unfortunately, to much of the chagrin of basically every other anime fan out there. I've got
for
what's that?
Sorry, I was gonna say my simple standpoint on that stuff. Like for me, I'm like, cause I'll watch it dub, sub, whatever. Cause for me, the way I kind of look at it is just like the more languages a series is in just means that's another opportunity for another fan to join the series, which the more fans we have of a series means that there's another chance that this series gets to live another day.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think the more shows that have dubs mean that the greater the younger generation will grow in their love for anime, because subtitles are a big hurdle for young kids. So yeah, getting rid of that hurdle is a good way to make the whole scene more inclusive for everyone. Moving away from Vinland Saga for 1 second, I want to talk to you about a series that is very close to my heart. In fact, I've mentioned several times that it is potentially my favorite series of all time, and I think the more I talk about it, the more I think it is that. Have you ever heard of a series called Golden Kamuy?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I think you're the first person on this podcast to answer yes.
Yeah, I have a lot of catching up to do. Because what are we cut on? Because they're about to. I think it was is it season 4 is coming?
Season 4 is coming out. Yeah.
Yes. So I've watched the first 2 seasons. I think I started season 3. I need to catch up. And then long story short, I enjoy that series. and I definitely need to catch up because I know that because I think the manga might be ending this year as well. I know I think it's close to ending.
Yeah, the manga's pretty
So,
close to wrapping up. And
mhm.
as soon as it does, that's my green light to go in and just devour that, because I don't know if you're the same, but I don't like picking up mangas that are continuing or that are still going, because it's like, okay, well, when's the end point? Am I picking this up to read it week to week for 5 years? Because
Mhm.
that's a commitment. So there's a lot of series that I'll read a lot of, and then I'll put down, wait like a year, and come back and read the rest of it or something like that. Like I'm currently doing that with One Piece, where I've read like up to the
Mhm.
Kaido arc, and then I've put it down for a while, and I'll pick it back up soon. But yeah, so as soon as Golden Kamui finishes up for the manga, I'm gonna just tear it to strips. I can't wait. But the anime, and I've recently rewatched this over Christmas, and this is, I don't
Mhm.
know, like the fourth or fifth time I've rewatched it, because I'm
Nice.
genuinely obsessed with it. How did you feel about the first two seasons? Because I've recommended it to a few people, and they've turned their noses up at it.
I enjoyed them. I'll say like, just at first I was like, okay, what is going on? What is this? But like I said, for me, if you have some type of, like I said, like the story in general is good, or at least like until maybe like the main story starts to unravel, some type of good hook. And so for me, that the whole initial premise of just like, hey, they're trying to find this treasure, and the way to find this treasure is by basically piecing together these tattoos that are on the backs of all these escaped prisoners. So it's like a messed up. I don't know why this analogy came to my brain, but I'm thinking like it's like a messed up version of Pokemon where you got to collect them
Oh my
all.
god, that's so grim. Yeah, I mean, I know, like, you're exactly right. The initial hook of Golden Kamui is so strong, and it explains that hook within the first like 3 minutes. You hear the
Yeah.
story of the tattooed prisoners, and then it goes on. And if it was just that hook, if it was just, searching for these prisoners, I think I wouldn't enjoy it as much. But I think a lot of other people might enjoy it a bit more, because the thing that I obsess over when it comes to Golden Kamui, like, yes, the plot line, the main hook is really intriguing, but all the unnecessary stuff they put around it, I find just so charming, so
Yeah.
delightful. I find Sugimoto, as a protagonist, just so so grounding and so charming, because he's the immortal Sugimoto. He's an actual larger than life persona in this world. He's gained this title of immortality, whether it's
Hmm.
real or just in his head or in everyone else's head. And he has this persona about him, and it kind of oozes out into every other person he meets. And like
Hmm.
a Sherpa, his little sidekick. I don't know. You can't really call a Sherpa a sidekick, but his guide
Yeah.
through this seemingly untamable terrain that is, I was going to say medieval Japan, but it's not medieval. It's like old Japan, old,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
old Japan. Like going through, and the way the seasons split up into the seasons. So season one takes place during winter, and then season two is spring, and season three goes into summer, and how much that affects the
Hmm.
environments they're in, and the hunting they're doing, and the food they're preparing, and the explanations that a Sherpa gives for everything she's doing, and how for some reason they'll just spend majority of an episode trapping squirrels and making cheetah, and that's all they do that episode, and I'm fucking so
Yeah.
for it. It's weird. I've wrestled with this series a lot, because yeah, when I first watched it, I was like, okay, is this my show? Like, is this it? Because I'm a chef by trade. I love
Hmm.
food. I love
Nice.
I love the process of cooking, and the ritualistic nature and cultural nature of a lot of cooking. Like, most cooking like most recipes, at least the traditional ones, are just things that were passed down by generation from parents to children, and they teach their parents, and it's a very intimate and private thing. Cooking was for a long time, not so much now, and I don't know, seeing that kind of relationship with food play out on top of a mysterious, action-packed, show where they're constantly introducing these villains in the form of escaped convicts that are all as nasty and twisted as the last one, or maybe they're just misunderstood. I mean, I fucking love this show, man. I'm so glad that you've watched it, that I can actually talk to someone who's actually watched it, because I keep bringing it up on episodes I do with guests and collaborations with other podcasts. I'm like, oh, have you seen this show? And they're always like, oh no. And I'm like, oh, you should probably watch it. I mean, I really like it, but I could understand if you don't like it, because it's such a good series. Do you have a series like that, like a series that you think more people should get around? Do you have a Golden Kamui equivalent?
Now, I don't know if this would be like fully equivalent, but one kind of, I guess kind of like in similar vein where I feel like enough people talking about it or whatever, is No Guns Life.
Never
Have
even
you read
I'm
that
Googling it like voraciously. No Guns Life. Okay. Oh yes, I haven't seen this. I have seen.
But you've seen the image or the character.
I have seen various memes of old mate Gunface.
Yep.
It looks interesting. It's interesting, like that's such a strong design and a strong aesthetic off the bat that looks interesting. Sell it to me. I'm so intrigued.
Oof, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think how to sell it. I guess for me, for one, just the initial thing with like the main character, as well as a lot of characters that you come across having these various body modifications, because like, hey, that is like, he literally has a gun for his head. It's like, I don't know, like that series, it is so, and granted, this could also be because it's been a couple of years since I watched that last season, but I guess for me, it's just the allure of just the world and the setting, because it kind of takes place in kind of like I'm trying to think, I guess slightly futuristic, I guess maybe more like modern is what I'll say, not necessarily futuristic, but modern setting in like what's the country? Like Germany. I can't remember if they're specifically in Germany, but a lot of the character names and stuff, whatever, is very German. But it just has a lot of mystery, lots of great action going on in it. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm definitely not doing the series justice.
I mean, I'm on the wiki at the moment, and yeah, it describes it as like the genre is cyberpunk, which I think is a genre I don't know if I've actually ever gone in really hard on a cyberpunk, which sounds interesting. I do like cyberpunk, except the game. The game was bad. Yeah, it like. I don't think you really do need to sell it to me, to be honest. I think just hearing that you liked it and seeing the image of this dude with a gun for a head, and does he have the revolver bit on his wrist or in his hand?
No, that's another gun he has.
That's fantastic.
His actual head actually does have a revolver part.
That's amazing.
Because basically the back of his head actually has a trigger, and so. He was part of like an elite force that all kind of looked like him or whatever, and basically they had squad mates that basically would like when it came to big moments during the war, they would literally pull their trigger and they would unleash like enormous firepower. And so with him, like the partner that he had back in the day, whatever, I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure he lost his partner back during the war, and so basically he doesn't let nobody touch his trigger, and so that's kind of like his thing where it's just like, no, hey, somebody, if anybody gets trying to get close, whatever, he's kind of like, no, get away, back off, or whatever. But just throughout the series, he ends up bonding with a cast of characters. He has there's a young lady that's with him who is basically, you know what? I would kind of equate her because she's kind of like his mechanic or whatever. She is kind of like how Winry is
Yeah,
for the
I was
Elric
about
brothers
to
in
make
Full Metal.
as soon as you said mechanic, I just pictured Winry.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. Because I love the relationship with Winry and the Elric brothers. I think it's one of the best relationships in that Full Metal series. So to hear it being referenced as a Winry reference that's exciting. I'm going to go in on this series. It's crazy because this happens every time I record with a new collaboration, a new guest, is that I just end up adding like 3 things to my watch list, and I'm like, oh yeah, because that's what I need. I've got an infinite amount of time to watch all these things. My watch list is the most like ridiculously wishful thinking I do in my life. Like it's the equivalent of writing a check for yourself for $1 million in 5 years, because that's how much you're going to do. I've put that much on my watch list that it is an insurmountable mountain at this point, but I will get through it one day, my friend. I fucking promise you that.
Yeah, and the reason why this one kind of came to mind as you were talking about Golden Kamuy, because like I mentioned, we were talking about how at least the manga for that is about to end sometime soon. The manga for No Gun's Life actually just ended. What was it? September of last year. So that one's a recently ended one. I think they just published out the last physical volume of it. So it's like, okay, now this is a complete series, makes it look like you said, kind of like, okay, I have a definitive stopping point. Now I kind of know, okay, where to kind of gauge, like, okay, if I do want to tackle this, I can set aside X amount of time. Like, okay, it has X amount of volumes. I know this stopping point. So, but yeah, that's kind of why I had or why it came to mind as well. Because, like you said, like equivalent, comparing it to you and Golden Kamuy.
Yeah, that's a great pick. Before we should start wrapping up soon, but I'll be kicking myself if we don't talk a bit more about your number one pick for your favorite anime, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Again, another series that I haven't spoken about much on my podcast, because I don't really know how to do it justice with a review, because I don't know how you review one of the best pieces of media ever made, especially when it comes to anime. But just quickly, do you have a favorite character and a favorite moment from Brotherhood?
Ooh, I'm trying to think.
I can go my ones first because I've always got them locked and loaded.
Yeah.
So
go with yours.
For moment, Mustang killing Lust is one of the best things I've ever seen. That scene, there's so much raw emotion, there's so much passion, there's so much fire, both literal and figurative. It's the culmination of a lot of things leading up to that, and I think Colonel Mustang as a character is so well put together for the majority of that show, where when you see him start to lose it and you see the cracks start to form and you kind of see the pain, like there are moments where we see Colonel Mustang's pain throughout the series, but the pain in that scene alone, just from Mustang's point of view, it's truly heartbreaking, and it's a good payoff. I mean, it pays off. It's a good crescendo. But for characters, I've always had a thing for Armstrong. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me. But I find him, especially in the dub, there's something about his dubbed voice where it's so charming, it's so over the top. He's so nurturing and caring while also being just the biggest beefcake in the room. And especially the name is blanking on me, but the Aaron and Alphonse's teacher's husband, who's another beefcake.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I can't remember his name, but when him and Armstrong pair up for their fight at the end of the series, it's so good, man. I just love big beefy dudes getting along. You know what I mean? Just fucking two fucking absolute sides of American beef, just fucking slamming together. I love it. It's good stuff.
Sig Curtis.
That's it.
Yeah.
Wow. I hope you had to Google that. I hope that wasn't locked in your
I did.
brain. Okay,
I did.
Because if it was locked in your brain, that's psycho behavior. But Googling it, that's acceptable. Yeah, I think for me, those are the standouts for me.
Yeah. So for me, character wise, at least the one that kind of comes to mind for me, and I think this is kind of more so happened or kind of become more prevalent just over the years, especially me becoming a dad, but would be Maze Hughes.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah,
it's so rough. it's so heartbreaking.
Yes, but yeah, just just with how who he was as a person, and just the bond he had with this little girl. That, like I said, it's something I always admired. Like I said, I think even just more so, me becoming a dad myself over the years, So yeah, he's definitely probably not like one of like my top favorite characters. And for moments, the one that it kind of just like sticks out in my mind, and I think it might have been because of some stuff I was going through in life as well, was kind of when I'm trying to remember, shoot, who was when the old lady was telling, was it Armstrong, the Elric brothers story? I think that might have been it. That sounds about right. But basically, when she was telling them basically the story about them burning down their home, so that they basically have no choice but to move forward. That moment kind of just stuck out to me, just for a multitude of reasons, because I guess kind of because in a way I related to that, in the sense of the, not necessarily like my home, but my hometown that I came from. Very small country town in the deep woods of Texas, where it's like there's like nothing down there, and it's kind of one of those things like, hey, if you're able to find a path to leave and to move out of town or whatever, do it. Explore the world, find something better to do with your life. And so I kind of just related to that mentality of just like, hey, sometimes you have to kind of cut ties with things, people, whatever, in order to be able to continue to move forward. And so, like I said, with them, it was, burning down their childhood home. So it's like, hey, there is no home to go back to. There, you can't go back. So that moment for me is just, like I said, it might not be like the biggest and flashiest one, but like I said, I think just because of the parallel with me and life is, why that kind of is one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic answer. I think Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is one of those series where I think no matter at what point in your life you watch it, there could always be a parallel you could draw between the trauma that any of the characters are facing and some sort of trauma that is happening in your life. And it's an all-time great for a reason, and that reason is a lot more than just a lot more than just good animation, good fight choreography, and an interesting world. Like it's an all-time great because it's so emotional. It has so much emotional weight and so much, emotional depth in that show, where every character goes through at least some version of an emotional journey. And there's so many points in which you can relate to it, and there's so many points in which the audience has to go through some sort of trauma to keep going. Like even as like when I watched it when I was very young, the artificial I want to say artificial homunculus that gets created with the girl and the dog. I think I've honestly blanked it out because of trauma in my mind as to their names. But like that scene is horrific. It is so awful to watch that scene, and as an audience, you just kind of have to deal with that and keep moving forward because they don't dwell on it too much. But like that scene alone is so fraught with peril that it's crazy that there's worse things coming for the audience before it gets better. You know what I mean? Like it's such a good show. I want to do a rewatch, and the best part about doing a rewatch of Full Metal Alchemist is that it's like 64 episodes. It's such a clean little rewatch. It's like anytime I get a bit of nostalgia for it, I'm like, yeah, I can just rewatch that. Whereas anytime I get nostalgia for like Shippuden or anything, I'm like, no, you can watch a highlight reel on YouTube. You're not doing it again. You don't have that time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Full Metal is definitely something that I want to do a rewatch. Hopefully within the next year or so, because I haven't rewatched it, or I haven't. Well, I've maybe like watched certain scenes or moments over the years, but I have not done a full start to finish since it initially came out, and that's been over 10 years ago, which is freaking crazy to think about.
Yeah. I did a rewatch. I think I did a rewatch and I think the only way I can remember this is because it was the start of the pandemic. So I think I did a rewatch around Christmas 2020, which was my last rewatch. And I think that was a hurried rewatch where I may have skipped the first 20 episodes just to get into like the main meat of it. But yeah, I'm chomping at the bit for a rewatch. I'm a sucker for a rewatch. I think I'm at the point where I enjoy a rewatch more than I enjoy the initial watch because I get more out of it, if you know what I mean. Oh yeah. Man, this has been absolutely fantastic, Robbo. I've loved having you on the podcast. I've loved listening to your podcast and watching your videos. We will wrap it up there because we have been going for like an hour. So thanks for joining me. Make sure you go check out Dad Needs to Talk podcast. I'll put a link in the show notes below. Get around the YouTube videos of Robbo and Dad Needs to Talk. They're fantastic. And especially if you enjoy a bit more of a manga angle and a bit more of a manga deep dive, your content is great for that.
Thank you. That means a lot.
It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll definitely get you back on soon. We might even get you back for a Full Metal Alchemist episode. I reckon that'd be quite fun, brother.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'll catch you later, my guy.
All right, man.
Peace.
Peace. Thanks for having me on.